Today we're going to be talking about steep approaches and Gulfstream's recent approval of the G650 and the G650ER to perform steep approaches. Now this is great news for Gulfstream, but before we get into this, I want to welcome you here to BizJet TV. My name is Fabrizio Poli, I'm your aviation advisor. Lots of content here on BizJet TV. If it's your first time on this channel, please look around, subscribe. Lots of content, over 420 plus videos here, all about aviation, in particular focus on business aviation. And subscribe and comment below as well and give us the thumbs up, which helps the algorithm. So let's get into today's episode, into the meat of it. Let's start by defining what a steep approach is. Now, most approaches into airports come in with what's called a glide angle of about 3 to 3.5%. So most airfields are designed that way. If it's between 3.5 to 4.5, it's still okay. It doesn't really affect the landing and that. But when a steep approach is required is usually when you've got obstacles during the flight path coming in. And so these obstacles do not allow you to come in at 3.5 degrees. You've got to come in at a steeper angle. And then the steeper angle means you're going to end up having more speed, and you're also going to require more runway. So the airplane needs to be designed in a way with the wings and everything to allow it to do a steep approach without accelerating too much, so that then when it does come in over the threshold to land, the airplane doesn't require that much runway. So it's a bit of a tricky situation. It's a combination of aerodynamics, speed, approach, type of obstacle, etc., etc. But Gulfstream G650 and the 650ER have just been approved to be able to perform a steep approach at 6 degrees, which is great. This means, because of the wing design and that, Gulfstream have demonstrated that, they can do this type of approach and land at an airport like London City, which is in the centre of London, where the runway is only 4,300 feet long, so it's not very long. And obviously the G650 is an airplane that's got long range capability, 7,500 miles, which means you can land, take off from somewhere like Los Angeles and land directly at London City, or take off from London City and go to Los Angeles. So this is really, really important. It's going to be help Gulfstream to sell a lot more aircraft, because there are airports like, Aspen. You've got airports like Lugano in Switzerland, where I've flown in and out of many times, Sion in the Swiss Alps, of course London City, and there's a few others out there where steep approaches are required, and sometimes, it's tricky to get in there with the bigger jets, because, the bigger jets usually being heavier, are faster, and obviously require more runway, and the steep approach is something that's usually not built into them. But building this into a long-range airplane is definitely a big plus for Gulfstream. So I'm sure that more and more people will be buying the Gulfstream G650, G650ER, and they're looking at giving that certification also to the G800, which is going to have an 8,000 mile range. So that's going to be interesting, because it's the wing is improved compared to the G650. So it's pretty much the same fuselage as a 650, with the wing of the G700 and the avionics of the G700. So we'll probably see the G800 receiving this 6 degree steep approach certification in the future as well. So this is a great victory for Gulfstream. And of course, they've got their big service centre down at Farnborough in London, with lots of spare parts and that, and they can service all the European market and their Gulfstreams. And it's really important when you're buying an aircraft to make sure that there are service centres in the region where you operate, because airplanes do break down, and when they break down, the whole idea is to get them fixed as soon as possible and get you back into the air. Because as I always say, you're not buying a jet, you're buying time. You always have to think in that way when you're buying a private jet. But again, I can only give general information here on BizJet TV, so if you want to know more and find out information specifically to your requirement, I do suggest you reaching out to me. You can ping me an email and I'll schedule you in for a Zoom call. We can get on, find out more about your business, and come up and tailor a solution for you. As I always say, I represent the buyers, so I represent you in finding the right aircraft and matching you up with management and pilots and everything, and doing all that for you as well. So that's all from me on this episode. Remember to watch this other video here about celebrities and how they use private jets, which is an interesting one. And that's all from Fabrizio Poli on BizJet TV, and I'll see you on the next one.